I told my girls back when they were getting teenagers, and I made it clear to them, you never come to Vancouver unless you have a plan, unless you're coming for school or a job. If you don't have those as a plan, you have no business in Vancouver. We are living in the 21st century. We are facing new issues. We can't allow prostitution to be accepted.
Hello, this is Doug Sharpe, host of the National Leadership Briefing, and this is the Midweek Touchpoint. Well, on July's National Leadership Briefing, I made the announcement that in August, that's the first Friday of August, on August the 6th, we were going to be dedicating our entire National Leadership Briefing to understanding the issue of human trafficking, child sex trafficking, prostitution, and even touching a little bit on organized crime and the relationship there. Now, the reason why we're doing that is because we look through the lens of the four pillars here on the National Leadership Briefing, and there is one pillar that is very important to us, and of course, that is the third pillar, that the laws and policies of civil government must provide for the safety and security of the citizens, especially the vulnerable among us. Well, the reason why we're looking at human trafficking is because there is a vulnerable class of people here in our nation, and that is young women and girls. And they are all over and all across our nation going to be placed at greater risk if the federal government makes a move to fully decriminalize or legalize prostitution in our nation. So today I wanted to share the comments that were made by a member of the Legislative Assembly, Ellis Ross in British Columbia, and share the comments that he made in 2018 on April 26th, after he had been provided a briefing by someone in the legislature there about the possibility of legalizing prostitution here in Canada. Now, I should say, I'm not aware of any move by government to do that. However, there is an awful lot of talk about decriminalizing prostitution, and we'll get into some of those details on the upcoming briefing. But I wanted to share Ellis Ross's concerns with you today because they are so authentic and honest. And I believe that this is something we need to lend our ear to so that we know the importance of us standing with Ellis in defense of those individuals in our nation who are vulnerable to being human trafficked into a life of prostitution. Thank you so much for spending the time here listening to Ellis today. I believe it's a very important message.
Guys, I'm in Victoria. The house is in session, but I'm not on duty. So I was thinking of taking my political hat off for a while, but since I'm not wearing a hat, I'm going to take off my tie. Sitting in my office, and the house is going to run today around 6 or so, and then I get to go home. Probably get home tonight around midnight. This is not really a political post because I think people have become deaf when they hear about the term Aboriginal issues, social issues. And nobody really talks about what that really means. And 10 years ago, even longer than that, 15 years ago, I started to understand the issues that Aboriginal women were facing, especially young Aboriginal women. Not only in my community, but all across Canada and BC, the Highway of Tears, and understanding that it's a crisis, just like everything else when you talk about Aboriginal issues. Children getting taken into provincial care, Aboriginals end up in prison, Aboriginal males starting to fail in grade 10, and all the Aboriginals that are on the streets. And I tried a number of things, I participated in a number of things and realized there's no solution to this, no matter what kind of program you come up with. It's just a little Band-Aid. And that's what I refer to when I talk about putting Band-Aids on the results instead of trying to fix the source before it even happens in the first place. So I didn't just start economic development just out of the blue. You know, I spent a few years actually opposing economic development until I realized it was one of the real ways to get the Aboriginal issues solved at an individual level, not at a leader's level, not at a council level, not at a provincial level, but an individual. So if I could help 1 out of 10 Aboriginals stay off the streets or stay off drugs or stay out of prostitution, I felt that I was doing a job. So that's why I fully support Aboriginals for for jobs, and that's why I push so hard on economic development. And if you look around, I mean, if you say you see somebody at a job, like a good job, meaningful job, they're raising their family, Aboriginal or not, they're not in the streets. They're not homeless. They're not begging for money. They're not getting into prostitution. So it's just, this is just obvious stuff that I noticed over the years. I didn't read any academic papers on it. I didn't listen to any political windbags talk about it. I just noticed it, and just go to the simplest answer you can find, which is usually the best answer. The simplest is the best answer, and nothing else has really worked. So why I'm bringing this up to you is because 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I tried to look into the social issues that young girls were facing, because I was coaching a junior girls basketball team at the time, and I could see the issues they were facing. And it's why I wear the moose hide patch as much as I can, because violence against women in Canada is a problem, not only in the Aboriginal communities, but in Canada. And that's just one of the issues facing women in Canada. And Aboriginal women face even more because of the dismal social conditions they live under. Today, that all came back to me again, because there was an advocacy group that I met with today that were talking about legalizing prostitution. And I hadn't read about this. I hadn't heard about it. I mean, I know it's okay in Europe and different countries around the world, but I never really seriously considered that for Canada. Because instead of fixing the problem of Aboriginal girls going into prostitution, and maybe our failures around it, maybe we can fix it by legalizing it. That's not a good fix. I mean, some of these young girls are 13, 14-year-old, I mean, out in the streets, getting abused and murdered and owned by pimps. That's not a right way to live. And so that's why I think that to start a solid family structure, we can give the breadwinners and then whoever else is in a household something else to look forward to and have a passion for. And so I grew up around this as well. I could see it happening in my own community. I could see it happening in my neighboring communities. And I know it's a deep, dark secret about all these issues that are happening on reserve. But if we don't talk about it, it's going to get worse, especially if Canada legalizes prostitution. These young girls that are facing all these social issues back at home, and they're thinking that they're going to somehow make it better by, believing the lies of these pimps with the jewelry and the cars and the parties. I mean, I told my girls back when they were getting teenagers, and I made it clear to them, you never come to Vancouver unless you have a plan, unless you're coming for school or a job. If you don't have those as a plan, you have no business in Vancouver, because you're going to end up in Hastings Street. And that only leads to death. It only leads to abuse. It leads to prostitution. It leads to, overall, I was just tired of going to my band members' funerals for suicides, or maybe hearing about a band member getting thrown out of a hotel window and there's no investigation for this kind of stuff. I still believe that that we should be giving the Aboriginals the idea that, and acknowledging the idea that we are living in the 21st century. We are facing new issues. We're not running around the bush in loincloths. We're not carving out canoes and making our clothes out of hides and cedar bark. We are facing some big, big issues nowadays. And if we keep being romantic about going back to our culture and that has the answer for everything, we are deluding ourselves, and we are not actually providing a solution for those young girls that are being lured out of their communities, lured to Vancouver, and then disappear and end up in the sex traffic in Toronto or New York or else, and you never see them again. I got 2 daughters. I got a granddaughter. I have 2 sisters. I have a mother. I wouldn't wish this on any of them. And Aboriginal men, all joking aside, we can't allow prostitution to be accepted in our Aboriginal communities or in Canada, because once it becomes accepted, who knows how young that age will go. Think about the young girls in your community, whether you're Aboriginal or not, and think about how they're going to end up if they get into this ring, because even young girls that come from really good, solid families are prone to make a mistake. And if they talk to the wrong guy, or they get seduced by the wrong smooth-talking person, they could end up in a dumpster. Or worse yet, they could spend the rest of their life addicted to drugs, getting tattooed and branded by the guy that owns them, and you'll never see them again. And even if you do, you'll never recognize them. So, Aboriginal leaders out there, you know this is an issue. You know it. And to be brave and courageous about talking about this today and trying to find a viable solution is going to help so many people, so many families, and it's going to keep our young girls away from a really bad choice and a really bad life. I got to get back to work, so I'm going to put my political tie back on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to share Mr. Ellis Ross with you today and his concerns for his people and the nation of Canada, especially the vulnerable people that live in our communities. Thank you also for making plans to join us for the August 6th National Leadership Briefing and for planning to bring as many people as you know in your sphere of influence with you so that they can firsthand receive the information that we're going to share about this potentially devastating move by the federal government to decriminalize prostitution in our country. We look forward to serving you on the National Leadership Briefing. However, please make sure that you register at nlbcanada.ca. That's nlbcanada.ca, and we'll make sure that you receive a link to that all-important briefing. Now, until next time, and in the meantime, God bless you, God bless your family, and may God continue to bless this great nation of Canada. Bye for now.